The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Mid-Carolina Service Company.
Mid-Carolina Service Company is the first name to search for your residential or commercial HVAC needs in Lexington and surrounding areas.
Just go holler at Jason and Clint. They'll hook you up on the air conditioners, on the restaurant equipment, refrigerators, refrigeration, ice machine repair. They've been doing this for years. I know them cats forever.
Family owned and operated since 2006, they pride themselves in their quality work and customer relationships. Call 803-356-4153 or visit midcarolinaserviceco.com for a no obligation quote for service today.
The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by True Brilliance Entertainment.
True Brilliance is a production, promotions, and management company dedicated to connecting artists and producers across the Carolinas to music industry professionals.
Several of their clients have placements both domestic and internationally as a result of their services.
Are you an artist or producer looking to build meaningful relationships within the music industry? Then True Brilliance is for you. Check them out at paramilitary.com. That's spelled P-A-I-R-A military.com.
This episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Bob's. Bob's is a Columbia-based retailer of over 100 Black-owned products from 20 Black-owned businesses. Bob's offers a wide range of items from household cleaning, cosmetics, and everything in between. With every visit to Bob's, you support Black-owned businesses, giving them the opportunity to grow and establish connections with our community. Bob's is located inside the Noma warehouse at 2222 Sumter Street in Columbia, South Carolina. Visit their website, weshopbobs.com for in-store pickup or to find out more. Bob's can also be found via social media on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at weshopbobs. When you stop by, tell them the Hilltop Glove sent you. Bob's brings quality Black brands to the Columbia community. The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Red Rooster Sports Bar and Grill. Red Rooster is your neighborhood bar and grill serving the best wings, burgers, and baskets in the Met.
Like the amazing food, the bar is always on tap, and there's plenty of screens to watch the big game. Red Rooster is the Midland's premier meetup spot for local car and bike clubs, fraternities, and sororities.
Staff is dedicated to accommodating all kinds of parties and events. If you're looking to catch a game, have a bite, and a drink, look no further than the Red Rooster.
Red Rooster is located at 7500 Wilson Boulevard, Columbia, South Carolina. For more information, visit redroostersportsbar.com or visit them on Facebook and Instagram at Red Rooster Sports Bar. Go where the winners go.
Welcome to the Hilltop Glove Podcast.
Welcome to the Hilltop Glove Podcast.
Welcome to the Hilltop Glove Podcast.
Welcome to the Hilltop Glove Podcast. On this episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast, we interview Columbia-based artist Cedric Umoja. Cedric is a multidisciplinary artist and poet who seeks to implement alchemical change through the use of letter forms and archetypal totems. He bridges the ancient and the future in his drawings, paintings, murals, sculptures, film, and installation work. Cedric was drawn to art at an early age, with hip-hop comic books being his biggest influence. His work features elements of graffiti, comic sequential art, Japanese manga, modern, and African art. We hope you enjoy the conversation.
We talk to artists on our podcast, and we love to talk to local artists about what made them move into a creative field, especially because with you coming from a military family background, were they supportive with you in your creation of your career? And I know that the story you started with at the beginning with your uncle saying, you didn't draw that, you traced the thing, you traced it. Like, how important was art or is art to your family?
Well, actually, I mean, saying it was my granddad, but
actually
it was all good, but actually it was hip hop, really, because in the beginning, I don't know, like because I am, I'm going to just say, because I am of a certain age and from a certain era, I don't really know how other people got into the culture. But I think at a certain point in, I say maybe the third phase, beginning of third phase and end of the second phase of like hip hop music.
Can you explain to
culture.
our audience how you break down the phases, like the first and second phase?
Well, for me, it's like the first phase would be like, like Grandmaster Flash and those guys.
Okay.
Sugar Hill
What we
Gang
would
and
call
those guys.
old school, but
Yeah.
now it's
The creation of the technique.
Yeah, I call it like the inception of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Well, I mean the conception of hip hop, where hip hop is like kind of like, this is like the beginning where the MC now takes the forefront
instead of the DJ.
Instead of the DJ.
Right.
So you have the MC. So now you have the beginning of the MC, and that's like, to me, that's like first phases. And the second phase is like Run DMC, LL Cool J. You know, when Russell and them got involved and started like pushing the culture in different ways, that brought about like the third phase to me, which is everybody calls the golden era.
I see how you break it down smooth. Okay.
Yeah. So like the beginning. So like for me, I was influenced by the second wave or whatever, but those guys, the people that was playing it, were influenced by the first wave of guys, but listening to the second wave of guys. So you were seeing this stuff. You were seeing I was seeing, seeing graffiti. I was seeing like people rapping. I was seeing DJs. I was seeing all the culture. I was seeing breakers. So being around that, what do you want to do? You want to do that?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to break. I'm like, that ain't for me. I'm a big guy. Even kind of young, I was kind of big. So I'm like, that's not for me. I respected the DJing and I loved the music, but I didn't have access to equipment.
It was expensive, yes.
Yeah, so I couldn't get down with that. So the two things I could get down what it was like graffiti, in some form of graffiti, and MCing. So I actually wrote raps and rapped for a while and always, played with art, played with graffiti and my own way of seeing things. And that tended to influence how I began to get into art, because at that point I was like, this makes the most sense to me. Overall, this makes the most sense to me. And it was the one thing I continued to do. So, but rapping and writing raps, that made me want to write. More than anything, it made me want to write. So I began like writing short stories and all this other stuff, poems and stuff like that. But I stayed with the visual art and I kept pushing that, kept pushing it. I was like, this is what I'm here to do. This is my thing. And eventually it led me to take what I was doing and find ways to fine tune it and make it mine. No matter who was giving me instructions or what schools I attended, it didn't matter. Like I was still interested in making this thing mine. Like, how do I make this mine? How do I make this thing? Because keep in mind, I'm coming from the era where if you were copying or, biting, it was not allowed. Like,
true.
Right.
Seriously, like it was serious. Like
back in the day,
you could catch a fade.
Oh yeah, you would. You would catch. Yeah, you definitely would. You catch one quick if you was copying, if you was biting from everything. So like the culture used to be like, be original.
Yeah, even when dressing. Like
for real. It's like be original.
What was your MC name?
Trying to think, man. Wow. I just went by, and a lot of people who know me from like some time ago, and particularly during those days, knew me by the name Tafiq, because I was I was still 5%, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
They was like, oh, okay, yeah, so I just went by Tafiq. Is what I used to go by. Oh. But I mean, like some of the brothers that was older than me that was producing music, I was, they were the ones that really influenced me. Like, oh yeah, so we would form ciphers, but they got even more serious to the point that it wasn't just ciphers. It was like, we recording music. You know what I'm saying? And new people that were, in the industry. So like a lot of people don't know. Some people do. If you did your due diligence and you did the knowledge, you know that DJ Eclipse is from here.
What?
A lot of people don't know that. Yeah, Eclipse. So I knew people that was from his cipher or whatever. They was in the same cipher. So they was like, they'd go back and forth between here and New York, because, Eclipse went to Fat Beats, and he was doing stuff at Fat Beats, and then like Eclipse he has a show on Shade 4-5 now.
Yeah.
But the point just is like we was always tapped in some way. Like a lot of people don't know, like people are parts of the Wu-Tang Clan. They're from this area.
Mm-hmm.
They're from around this area, Wu-Tang Clan. So I was hearing Wu-Tang Clan music before anybody else was.
Okay.
Yeah, like we had somebody in the group that was older. Yeah, he went by Sun Magnetic, and Sun was signed to Priority Records. And Sun was he was being produced by one of the brothers who was making tracks for some of the younger heads like me at the time. You know, so we was always just surrounded in that way too. You know what I mean? So that influenced me to want to be like, yeah, you know what I mean? I want to get on here and do this. And I felt like I had bars. I felt like I had bars, you know what I mean? I was a writer. I felt like I had bars. I had some slick lines. But I really just wanted to battle rap more than anything else.
Yeah.
You know, battling the music.
And that's a big sport. It's a big sport now.
It is, but it is, but I think it, you know, it's always elements taken out. Because I consider myself to be a B-boy more than anything else. I'm a B-boy.
Oh, wow.
Even to this day. You know what I'm saying? And every now and then I show it. You might see me do the pose or whatever, you know, the B-boy pose. But the interesting thing about the B-boy pose is it actually came from 5% of standing on a square.
Exactly.
So understand, like hip hop culture is heavily influenced by the 5% nation, whether people want to admit it or not. Like the B-boy stance is 5% to stand on a square. The cats who was in the hip hop saw that because the 5%ers would show up to the cipher like that, and they thought that was cool. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they started like copying. Even with saying peace, people say peace, that's 5% culture. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And of course, all that means is, you know, the absence of confusion. But it just so incorporated that I was like, I got into the culture. Like I'm really a product of the culture itself, and not so much facets of the culture, though those things do, you know, they're around us, they surround us, and we might find ourselves somewhat delving into those things. I'm more so about the culture itself and still those elements that's out there like that, you know?
That's a good point, man.
Yeah, but it led me to the visual stuff. It all led me to being a visual artist to that point, you know?
How did you get the name Visual Alchemist?
Visual Alchemist.
Yeah.
That's kind of wild. Okay, you going back. Visual Alchemist. You did a little research on that one, I feel it. So, Visual Alchemist was, I always felt like I was doing something I was bringing these ideas, I was manifesting these ideas physically, in the physical form or whatever, and then, you know, making people or having people feel what I was doing from the mind. So I was like, I'm taking these visual ideas and alchemize. Is that a word? Alchemizing? Am I making up a word?
Hey, let's make it up.
Probably
Make it up.
Yeah, no, it works. Hey, it's alchemy. We make it all up.
Yeah, we're making it up. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, that's what I did. So people started feeling what I was doing, like literally feeling like, would be like, I saw that, it made me cry. I'm like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? Like the power of that. And so at the time I was part of Isms of Art. I helped to found it. Me and Dalvin Sman, and we were having a conversation, and Dalvin was like, we were back and forth, and I was like, because he was helping me develop a business card. I said, how should I do this? I said, you know, I consider myself to be a visual alchemist. He was like, let's put that on the card then. You know what I'm saying? And that pretty much was where it was at. Let's do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That makes sense. Let's do that. And I was like, yeah, I think that works. You know what I'm saying? And for the longest time, that's where it's at now. I can, like in true hip hop form, and more so like Wu-Tang, so say like Ghost or somebody, I consider myself to be a visual alchemist, a black wizard, you know, a visual b-boy, all these attributes now is kind of like what I've become, you know, and almost like personalities in a way, like who I'm going to be today. Oh, I'm gonna be the b-boy. I'm gonna be the visual b-boy. You're gonna see me come out here looking all these kind of ways, you know what I'm saying? Being influenced, you know, by elements of the culture that really like stood out, like a Ram LZ, who really influenced me, you know, beyond the people that were mentioned, you know, previously, you know, like really, he found a way to bring it all together and really create a world of his own. And that's what I've always tried to do, create a world of my own. So like the visual alchemist thing was like, let's create a world, you know what I'm saying? You already touching people in these ways, you know, let's further create this world and bring people in, you know?
You created it because when I see your artwork, I already know it's you. I was like, that's
No,
Cedric.
no lie.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And you know what? I'm gonna be real with you. Whether people feel it or not, like it's important that people feel it. But if they don't feel it, if they just tell me I knew that was you, then you got like the very first beginnings of it. Because really, I want you to feel like that's me. I want you to feel like when you see that, that's that dude, and it's nobody else. And if you saw anybody else doing it, you'd be like, oh, they biting him.
Right.
That is crazy. You
know what I'm saying?
That's not a lie. You really kept that part of hip hop where you're really trying to, how would you say it? You're trying to be, you're being groundbreaking. You're trying to find something new. Almost like jazz artists back in the day when they were going through the avant-garde period. They were trying to find new notes that didn't exist, right, and put it on a platform, let people see, hey, there's still more to the world than what meets the eye, you know?
Word. Yeah, for real. But see, here's the thing. You brought that up. Like, so when people start talking about where hip hop started, and there's always this big argument, right? Oh, where hip hop, it started in the Bronx. Nah, G, it did not start in the Bronx. It got cultivated in the Bronx. G.
True.
Where it really started at, it started long before that. It actually started in Africa, but let's just say that when it touched grounds here, it started with like gospel. It started with blues. It started with, jazz and rock and roll. That's how we got to hip hop. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to be real about it, because how you going to really know, as far as like if you're in something, how you really going to know how that's supposed to operate if you don't have the knowledge of the foundation where it started from? You know what I'm saying? Because that's going to give you pretty much the guidelines on, how you function in that particular space. You know what I mean? So
true talk.
Yeah.
Let's if you don't mind, I want to kind of dig a little bit into what you do in your art and some of the relations to hip hop too, because like we're really kind of talking about the esoteric nature of the foundations of hip hop, and it seems like you kind of expound upon that and are not shying away from it at all. This is kind of like your form, right?
It is.
And I know I've heard people like KRS-One speaks about it sometimes, about like, actually creating new archetypes where there was a void, where, there were people that you could idolize and make heroes of, but that idea of there being this kind of like power entity that wasn't necessarily this exact person. It was something that you invented and then tapped into, very tantric. And I kind of get that sense from a lot of your work. How did you get to that? I mean, you talked about the 5%ers and that path there, but like, like you messing with some things, man.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I'm messing with plenty of things. So like, I'd say like everything I studied, because the one thing it always taught us was the lessons always taught us, or we were always taught was like teach, right? So I decided to take my life lessons, take the lessons I learned from my elders, lessons I learned from those around me, and then start to try to put that into the work, find ways to put that into work in my own language, my own visual language. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that's where it started from. But keep in mind, I'm a true product of the 90s. So in the 90s, what else was out there? Like people was doing everything. Like, so the whole idea of this, I was kind of tripping because I'm like, first of all, you got to excuse me. I'm going to say this to kind of break out and get back to it. Like, I never thought I'd be this age, first of all. I never thought I'd even get in my 40s at all, right? Because the lifestyle that I was living, but also what we was taught, like the music we grew up on, the culture that we was around, those aspects of that culture kind of like, put us in the position where you might not be here because you into things that will, so I'm just saying I'm a true product of it. So I'm around like one of my friends, his family were in the Nubian Nation. And then eventually the Nubian Nation became the Nuwaubian Nation. Some people know the Nuwaubians and all this stuff. So like from Dr. Sebi to the Nuwaubian Nation to 5% Nation to all these movements that really taught people about themselves in some way. I'm a combination of those things. But also too, it's like I stopped, like I didn't talk about it. I wasn't as vocal about it anymore because I started putting it in my work. But I started to see where, some years back, we got into this whole concept of woke. And I thought it was dope, but I thought it was kind of funny because I had people coming up to me, telling me things. And I was like, yeah, I knew that when I was 15. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
I'm saying not the diss. I'm just being 100%
Right.
honest.
There's
like
woke, and then there's woke, and then there's wokety woke. Because there's levels to this shit.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I knew that since I was 15. I just don't go beating people in the head with it anymore because I'm not a newborn in it.
Yeah.
When you knew, you do that. When
You're
you knew,
zealous.
it's like a new vegan. Like I was vegan. Like I'm not vegan no more, but I was vegan for 15 years before people thought it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a bragging thing. It just, that was a product of that. All that stuff was a product of that. So to see it, kind of see it return too, and you being a different space in your life, and then the new heads coming at you saying this stuff, you kind of like, you want to big it up, but then you kind of like want to laugh because like you're preaching to the choir. I just made different moves because, I felt like, to be honest, not necessarily veganism or anything else. I just kind of got tired of, in those environments, sometimes people could be self-righteous. You know what I mean? And so self-righteous, they're looking down on people, right?
Yeah.
You're looking down instead of helping people come up. You're looking down on them. So I was like, I don't really want to be associated with that so much anymore. Not that I don't still do it. I do it, and I do it in a way that's not so preachy and not so destructive to people want to communicate with each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, I'm a product of that. So being a product of that, it was easy for me to find ways to incorporate that into what I was doing. I think to some people, I represent, I mean, actually to a lot of people that know me, they feel like I represent hip hop, which I'm glad that that's how they feel. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm definitely a product of it. You go to my Instagram page, looking at, my face and everything, you're going to see right there, hip hop practitioner.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I practice the culture.
Practitioner.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm a practitioner of the culture itself. So, and it's a whole different thing. And so I'm also here to be like, I'll be an unofficial ambassador as well for it. You know what I'm saying? So, because you got to think like this, like where I'm at in my practice now is Afrofuturism, but it had always been because hip hop is Afrofuturism.
That's true.
Like, think about this, right? Think about this. Some kids got together. They were kids still, even at 20.
Oh, yeah.
Some kids got together and created something from nothing for kids in the future.
Oh.
Good point.
You understand? Like, kids got
no
together.
Instruments,
and
invent an instrument. No beats, make the beats. Pause tapes.
Yes. And guess what? I did all that. I did pause tapes and everything. So I lived the culture out. So, but it was like, kids did this for kids.
Yeah, you're right.
So now we have it today. We have it today, and they say it's youth-based. It is youth-based because kids made it.
Yeah.
But it is a culture, and the culture has elders in it. So we have to understand that too.
That's a hard thing
you can't
for
just kick out
our culture. That's
elders.
hard for our culture to get over right now because we don't treat the elders in hip hop culture like the Rolling Stones get treated or like a Bob Dylan.
Exactly.
They don't get that same treatment.
Should.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we should because they paved the way and they laid the foundation for it to even exist now. You know what I mean? And so, like for me, it's like, yeah, I see it all the way around. Those kids did that for kids in the future to be able to do it. For kids in the future for kids in this present, that was the future, to be able to do it for kids in the future. It's something that will continue, you know what I'm saying? But we have to decide how it functions in that way. And we are all like anybody who's, actively participating in some way can all contribute, either in a positive or negative. I guess it just depends on where you want to stand at in it. But, for me, I want to see it flourish because of what it did. What it did and what it continues to do, So, yeah.
Very good points, man. I do want to jump into this next question because I want our audience to understand, especially for somebody who has been entrenched in the culture for long enough to, like you said, to actually see it grow from one point to another and go through different eras of it. You work as an artist. Could you give us a rundown of a typical day in your life as an artist? This is something people don't get to see. Like we just think that you all go do cool things, hang out at cool places, see all the good movies about the city, and then boom, stuff pops out that you make, and then we consume it. How does it really happen? Like, what do you do? Do you brush your teeth in the morning?
And you know what? I don't think I brushed them this morning, as a matter of fact. Nah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, a typical day would be usually is like, you get up out of bed. Like for me, sometimes I do intermittent fasting, so I don't eat when I get up. I don't eat when I get up. I might drink some water, but I'll get up, gather myself, go out to my studio space, look at what I left from the previous day, and decide what I want to tackle. And so you're right, like, because it really is a whole bunch of you being by yourself. It's like the Fortress of Solitude type of vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you by yourself, like trying to figure it out, troubleshooting, beating your head, listening to music, and just trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. And the truth of the matter is that part is really boring.
That's
that
what people
don't,
they don't know that. No one knows that. Yeah.
But it's work. I mean, it's work. Like you like the work. So I shouldn't say that I don't love the work. I love the work, but you already know what it's going to consist of is work. You know what I mean? So you're going to go in and like some days you're going to feel good about it because you're near a finishing point or you hit a high point in the work where you're like, it's come together now. You know what I'm saying? You might do a dance or two up in the spot. Like, yeah, I got this. You know what I mean? But then you're like, back to the work and you get back to the work. And like, for me, I tell you, for me, it's always like, finishing the work. And I'm already finishing the work in my head. So I already know, like, before I start a piece, I already know what it looks like finished.
Wow.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? Because I go through it in mind first. So I'll go through and get it done. And then make it physical. And then by the time I'm working on it in the physical, I'm like thinking about the celebration, which is the opening reception.
Yeah.
Right. So the opening reception is where you want to flex at, get fly at, you know what I mean? Be on your fly shit and everything else. Like you really want to be like, I'm out here, and this is what I did. But the other part of it is, like I said, it can be really boring, but you have to have all those steps, to go through it. And there are times when I'm making work that I already know, I'm like, it's going to hit. It's going to hit people. How do
you hold back the excitement and continue the process before? Like, how do you deal with that when you know you got something that's going to hit?
It's like, I'm kind of laughing because it's like kind of like the nerdy dude in the corner rubbing his hands together. Like, I got something. Yeah. I can't wait. You know what I'm saying? Like I got it. I can't wait. Wait till they get this. They don't even know what they about to get hit in the head with. I got this right here. You know what I'm saying? That's how I be thinking, man. Like, really, I be thinking like that. Like, I'm really nerdy in that way. So I'm like,
I'm just thinking about how many times I heard Kev say that about a beat.
No, real talk. Yeah. No, that's why it's funny hearing you talk right now. You sound like brother, man. It's just funny hearing you talk. Because you all really love what you do. That's part of I'm trying to get our audience to understand. Like, you get up, you go to work, just like normal people go to work. Everything's not glamorous, but like you said, there's that point where, I got this. I have this. They're about to get this. They're going to like it.
Yeah.
That makes it worth it.
For real. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And when your peers, because for me, to be honest, like, when you got peers tapping in and saying things to you, that's like really when you feel like, I've done this. You know what I'm saying? Like I got some people who I converse with, you know what I'm saying? I won't say in the physical, but like on the phone, maybe through text, through calls, that really like far more accomplished than me as a visual artist.
Yeah.
And they'll tap in and be like, yo, that's hot. Or, I'm feeling that. I see you in your bag. All these things, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, yo. So I've gotten to the point where I kind of feel like, I'm your favorite artist.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's cool. That's cool. I live for that too. You know, sometimes that means that you might not be the guy or the woman or the person that people know about all around the world. But I'm not here for all around the world. I'm here for people who want to get what I got for them. You know what I'm saying? So
now, how do you feel about creative work as energy work?
Creative work is energy work. You're talking about like chakra and all that?
Not necessarily anything like that, but just it's a concept that I brought up a couple of times with a few different guests that like there is an energy component to this creative stuff, and if you're not nurturing it in whatever way, you deplete it, and that and that's why sometimes when you're working on projects, either they can be like a incredible boost, or they can be an incredible drain. And I don't know, it's just something I'm exploring right now, is just kind of learning to talk about this in a way that we can find it more helpful and productive and accomplish what we're trying to do.
No, I feel that's true. I feel like I always say, like, like when we, as a child, for instance, right? Very pure energy. That's why, if you catch me on social media, sometimes I'm like, the babies are the greatest. The babies are the greatest because they're the best part, right? So the best part of their parents. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, as a child, you're in a very pure form. You know what I'm saying? And so everybody at one point were creative people. Everybody. And then society started picking them apart and, telling them what they were, and they started accepting that stuff. Like, so for instance, for me, I never accepted it, but I also said, I want to keep the purest part of that part that's there. And that's the child. So I'm always creating from a childlike perspective. So I don't function with rules. There are artists out there that be like, you can't do that because of this. You can't do this because of that. You can't. And I don't really see it that way. Even when I made beats, I never used a metronome. It was like, you got to use a metronome. I was like, why? You can't feel it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't feel it. Like, why are you separating yourself from the feeling?
Oh.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the feeling is important because the feeling is the spirit of what everybody else can tap into. So they can feel it too. So you start like taking the spirit away from it, the feeling away from it.
You just make them beats without snares.
Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Making beats without snares. Like, let's do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we're going to be creative, let's do it. Because kids don't think about rules like that.
Right.
Only parents or adults do. And they put that on the kids, and the kids started, they started taking that purity starts to go away.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
You know what I mean?
Point.
So I'm creating from a pure place, like always. I'm trying to, always create from a pure place. Even when I'm told, like, I made a short film, and some people were saying, oh, even before the short film, I switched up, but to me, it's not, and here's the other thing, I'm not really switching up. But to some people, it seems like I'm switching up. So I'm using that term. But really what it is it's a transition to different ways of communicating the same idea. Mm-hmm. I got to have several conversations with people to reach people in different places. How do you do that? If I'm only speaking one language, I can only reach with so many people. Mm-hmm. And for me, like visual art to me is a visual language. So I'm trying to always create dialogue and language that's going to be contacting everybody, as many people as possible. Because keep in mind, what am I doing? I'm still teaching.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm trying to give some medicine in some cases, visual medicine that helps people.
That therapy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I've had people actually tap in, like say to me, like, this dude who was like, and that's how I understand the power of it all. Like this dude who was like, at the time I met him through USC School of Dance. I got commissioned to do something there with them. And they were doing hip hop dancing and stuff like that. And I met this dude, he was like 16 at the time or 17 at the time. And he started following me. It's funny. So he was following me for some years. And then he tapped me on the inbox after 5-6 years, tapped me on the inbox, was like, I want to thank you for, all that you brought to my life, through your art and everything. I used to think that you worship the devil. I was like, word, for real? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, why? You know what I mean? But I understand because he was raised very Christian. And some of the things I was saying can seem like that. I had a dude say one time, like, I got this statement. I still use this statement. Believe in yourself like you are your own religion. This dude heard this and was like, that sounds like Satanism, right? And I was like, well, I guess it might sound like that if you study that and that's what it is. Understand where I got it from is, like, if you don't believe in yourself, who else is going to believe in you? You got to believe in yourself like you're devout if you're doing a particular thing.
Understood.
You know what I'm saying? Because people will tell you can't do it. Like, even with this, people told me I couldn't. They're like, yeah, you could draw, but you can't be an artist. You know what I'm saying? And it was because they felt like, how you going to do it here in South Carolina? How you going to do it, period? And I always say, yo, check it. I went from like painting in the sun where people would ride by and not see me, like literally getting it from the mud where nobody would want to buy nothing. They might say, oh, that's nice. Nobody would want to buy nothing, right? And from selling like a drawing maybe for like, at the time, for like $50 to like where I'm at now, selling a drawing for $700. So it's like, if I had listened to what they told me, I wouldn't be here and we wouldn't be having this conversation. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Manifestation, like manifesting your life. Like, do you believe that's what you did?
Oh, word up. I do. I do feel like that's what I did. And I feel like that's what I continue to do. Because, I mean, literally, I can give testimony. I went from seeing people who I'm cool, like years ago, seeing people who I'm like cool with, seeing them on like YouTube, like a YouTube situation where they just did a big show in New York. Like years ago, I would see them like, oh man, yo, to be in the same space with these people right here, be able to build with them or whatever it may be, to now I'm talking to them on the phone. You understand? Like that happened, and it happens every day. Like, so I'm a true believer in, well, I should say believer because that's something else. Like I practice it, so I know.
Yeah.
I don't just believe. No, I know that's real because I've made that happen. Yeah, I've made that happen. Like, and every now and then I'm still kind of blown away by it. I'm like, I'm tripping. Like, I really know this dude. But years ago, I saw this dude and was like, this dude still is top tier. But, top tier at that time too. And I'm like, man, it's crazy, But I feel like it's all about what you believe, what you practice. You know what I'm saying? You have to do that. And once you start to practice it, then you know it. You know it to be true. You know what I'm saying? So,
man, and I know Tamaya was touching on that, manifesting your life and being a vessel as well. This is another point that we want to touch with you. It's just being a vessel for your art and letting it carry you. Because another thing, this all goes together, is just carpe diem, like seizing the day. And we were talking about a typical day of you being an artist and how you approach it and making sure you aren't not sitting there just thinking about it in a sense of like wasting your day, but making sure you're squeezing the last, every last bit of energy or juice out of that day so that you can manifest and be a vessel for what you want to be. Could you explain the meaning of those concepts and how important they are, especially for folks who may be considered or think that themselves that they're downtrodden or they don't have control of their life? Like, how important is that for that to be something you take with you every day? Like a mantra, a running mantra of manifesting and being a vessel for what you want.
I mean, as a creative person, I don't see where you could actually create without having that, some aspect of that. So I think, it's a matter of growing it further if you're not practicing it in this fullness. But so every day it's like, to me, it's like getting up and saying, I know that what I make is impactful to the world. And I want to be able to do this, not just continue to do this, but do this in a better way every day. And then you go about, how do I do that? How do I do that? So like for me, it's always, and I would say that the manifesting part starts with all things. For me, it starts in the mind. So it's like, how do I go about doing that? And then I started to like bring that to life. Okay. So ways in which I decide to bring things to life, to me, is that real part, or like giving birth in a sense, is bringing it to life, is born it into existence with this idea of conveying it to the world. And that sometimes can be hard because
that is a very hard part. Birth is hard.
Yeah. It could be hard because people are. It's like, we're artists, so you're concerned about whether people are how they're gonna receive it.
Yeah,
and I would say like I've had friends, creative friends, who find difficulty in exhibiting whatever they do, music or whatever, visual art, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. Because they're just used to making the work, and then and just really concerned about how the world is going to receive it, whether they're going to get beat down, by people's reactions. And I think when you're in that manifesting form, you can't be concerned with that. You can't be concerned with people not, you can't be concerned with that because that's them. That's not you. And I feel like it's like everything is sound. It's not, I guess. That's science. That's mathematics. Everything is sound.
You're right.
You know what I'm saying? So sound, it has a lot to do with whether something is built or destroyed. So if you're going to take that in, it will destroy you. But you can create your own sound that builds you up. So it's like, what do you want to do with that? Because if you listen to what they're saying, then they're manifesting on you. You're not manifesting on yourself.
That's an uplifting way to put that.
It's like a form of projection, right? They're projecting their fears onto you.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what it is. Exactly what it is. is them, doing that. And if you buy into that, then you bought into it. This is like definitions, for instance. How do you define yourself? You know what I mean? Like, how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself like other people see you? Do you see yourself like you see you? So if somebody says, oh man, you're not fresh, you're whack, or whatever it may be. If you see it like that, if you see like, maybe it might be, you know what I mean? I might be whack for real.
Yeah, real talk. You take it to heart.
Yeah, I might be whack. But I'm always like, I'm so fresh, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, fuck what you think. Like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
I'm a B-boy.
No, you ain't lying. You were not lying. You were telling
me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Style is what it's about. So it's like, I'm about style, but I'm about substance too. And you're not going to tell me, and I got my own, you're not going to tell me being myself ain't dope, because it is.
Right.
But I'm from that era where that was expected of you. Like, you know what I'm saying?
You're right.
So I'm just programmed that way.
Yeah. You're way different than like, and it's interesting because we have the tools and technology to have that like mindset be like extra strong. But like you said, the part of the issue is that's no longer the mindset. And I tell people it's not that it's a bad or a good thing. It's just, it's a different thing. So that's something that I know I'm learning, because like I'm in that weird in-between era between your era and the next era, and looking at the two vibing, watching how it, especially in the art world, I'm just like, well, both of y'all got great things to say. Like, take the best of both worlds and put it together. And I think that is really present when it comes to the idea of talking about street art and graffiti.
Yeah.
And I noticed that's something that of course, part of your platform, something that you're big into. Could you speak a little bit about the evolution of that art form and where you see it going in the future, and how to properly advocate for it? Because that's a part of the culture that I know a lot of the youth, they haven't understood. It has to come along with the music. It has to come along with the DJs and the B-boys and the dancers. That it was a visual art is part of hip hop.
Mm-hmm. It's true. So like the origins of it really is like, it started, well, like, to bring it back, a lot of people might feel like, like now you're seeing a lot of people who are not Black or brown, doing it.
Yeah.
But it was always that way.
It was everybody.
Yeah, because it was everybody doing graffiti back in the days. It was like, the thing was, you had punk rockers and hip hoppers like hanging with each other.
That's crazy, but that's what it was.
The cultures, the cultures are, and they still are, like the pure part of the cultures, very similar to each other. So you had, punk rockers writing graffiti, hip hoppers writing graffiti. And so that was always the thing. But then as hip hop began to be more organized, in the sense like people were saying, these are the elements. Man, I personally think through my studies, when you look at the DJ kind of like fading away eventually, so did like the graph part fade away.
Yeah. And
then the music became like the focus. And that was because the music industry itself found a way to make that
control
means
for
capital gains.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, means for capital gains and whatnot. And they couldn't see the value in those other things. And so like those things are important. You know what I'm saying? So like, I had to go all the way back just to say that for me, when I say hip hop, and it's not any disrespect to anything being made now, because I listen to everything, but when I say hip hop culture music, it reflects that. It will always have, like, hip hop itself will always have facets of, I'm just going to be honest, misogyny in it.
Yep.
It's going to have violence in it. It's going to have, all the, to me, negative elements, but that's life. Life has negative elements. It also has positive elements.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But when you remove the DJ, you removed hip hop music itself, culture music itself, because it started with the DJ. So how could you remove the foundation? And if you remove the foundation, is that thing the same anymore when you remove the foundation? No, it's not. So the music today is not hip hop music. And that's an unpopular opinion for a lot of folks. I know that it is, but it's the truth. Like, just do the history and you'll see that what I'm saying is what it is. It don't mean that the music that's being made now ain't dope or whack or anything like that. What it means is it's just different. It's just different than where it came from. But check this one. Are you not different than your parents?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You are.
Evolved.
Though you're the best part of your parents, you're also different than them. And that's okay. You know
We're
what I'm
evolving.
saying?
We're
Yeah,
a
exactly.
evolution. Form of
Exactly. That's evolution. But for me, when we say something is hip hop, we're talking about, or hip hop music, we're talking about where it started from. It started with the DJ. And the MC was just a person to get the crowd right. You know
And it was
what I'm
about
saying?
being live.
And then
It was
the
about
MC
controlling that space.
Yeah.
The live
Indeed.
energy.
It was about those things. And those elements kind of went away. You know what I'm saying? And of course, we have something else. And I like parts of that something else. You know what I'm saying? Sure. I rock with a lot of, what's out there. But, my practice comes from, like, hip hop at its essence, because at the same, like to the point that I'm crazy about fat gold chains. I'm crazy about gazelles. Some people don't even know what gazelles are. I'm crazy about gazelles. I'm crazy about Kangos and raccoon hats. Yeah. I'm crazy about fat gold chains. I'm crazy about fat laced Adidas, the superstar joints. That's where I'm at. I'm so wrapped up in it, to the point, I follow a page on Instagram, and all they do is show boom boxes.
Wow.
If I had money, seriously, if I had millions, I would just have a room full of boom boxes. That's how crazy I am about this.
We used to take the boom box to the basketball court, just so we could hear the music while we were playing. Because remember how that's how intertwined hip hop was with just culture in general, especially anything relating to Black culture. So like the fact that we played basketball, hip hop and basketball had to be intertwined. It was everywhere you went, it was a part of culture. I say that to say the point you made about the DJ is very, man. You're such a good point.
Tell it, DJ.
Yeah, I have to, man. I have to. Because DJs used to introduce you to the culture. They would take you on a ride from the past to the present to the future. And we don't have that anymore because, like you said, the removal of the DJ from being the preeminent way of breaking records and introducing artists to the culture as almost like the real true gatekeepers, them taking that away and it being replaced by A&R or an executive, it has done a lot to we, like you said, the control that we had, that control is gone. And I kind of long for the days when we had that control. And we do have some excellent DJs out here still who are doing their thing and who break records and stuff, but we don't have the same control that we had in the past. And we have to find new ways to reclaim it. But yeah, that's why the DJ was so important, because the DJ was your griot. That was the person who was holding that history.
True indeed. Yeah. And like you speaking on that, like I remember being a kid and being crazy. Like, I'm from that era, so being a kid and hearing Mr. Magic.
Go ahead.
Like I got opportunity to hear Mr. Magic. Like, you know what I'm saying? And when you heard it like the opening or the drop for the Mr. Magic show, you got crazy hype about it. You was like, yo, you know what I'm saying? He getting ready to play the hot joints. Like, he getting ready to play something new that you ain't never heard before.
Yeah.
Like something you could salivate about, later on and be like, I hope my tape don't pop. Because, I'm at the time,
you got to record.
Maybe record button, you know what I mean? Doing all that. So I'm analog. I just can't help it because of the era. I'm analog. To the point my wife was like, she got mad at me one time. You're so, like, that was her way of dissing me. Like, you're so analog. I was like, I don't have no problem with that.
No problem with that. Your wife, she's on digital. She's so cool though. Her art is excellent too. We actually were at the show at the museum where she was doing the presentation. We started walking. We was like, oh, we got to talk to him next week. We can't wait. So
he's a dope individual, man.
Yeah.
But she was like on me about it. Like, she dissed me. Like, that was a diss. I was like, God, fine with that. For real, like, you know what I'm saying? You so analog. I'm like, yeah, word up. I am, man. I'm proud of that shit. I'm proud of that. You know what I mean? I'm definitely from my era, and I'm represented. I'm not saying that I stay in there, but because of course, we're talking right now, and I'm functioning in the digital capacity.
Very digital, yeah.
But I'm choosing to keep that analog part of my life, I guess is what I'm, so.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Question though, because you're from this area around this time, were you ever familiar with or in touch with a group, Kip and DJ Rel?
Kip, no.
Okay.
When they drop?
Oh, I don't think they ever. I think they did some regional tours and stuff.
Okay.
Kip passed away a couple years back, but that was just one of the people that kind of mentored us coming up.
Yep, that's true. Yeah, real talk.
Pointed us in a lot of directions, told us to put some snares and some things that
snares on snares. You need a snare.
That was a true story.
Put some snares up in there. Huh?
Yeah, we had no snares. It was just, it was like, and it's funny because nowadays we were talking
all
with
over the damn place.
We were talking with a producer about this other day. Like, we don't have, there's no like the music in the sense has changed because the absence of drums. So you'll have like spatial music, and on that backdrop you'll have the person put their voice. And I was like, yeah, that's where, we do that. We do that, the quiet music, as I like to call it, but people like that vibe. And so it's something that is produced now. But, I know Kevin had this question, and I must ask. And he says it like this: don't out him on the air, but
that's
do you
me,
know
bro.
Sour?
That's me.
That was you. That's what I was wondering. That was you, Mike. Yeah,
man. I mean,
Sour?
Growing up in Columbia in the 90s, that was like everywhere. Sour tagged every damn thing.
Sour is everywhere. I wouldn't out Sour. That's graffiti life. Like, you're not supposed to do that. But no, do I not? Do I know Sour? No, I don't. Okay. But I'll put it like this: like, when I've shown like art that definitely had that culture represented in it, Sour would be signing the guest book.
What?
Nice.
Sour would sign Sour and be like, I was here, blah, blah.
That's the thing. There's so many people around Columbia that's like,
I know Sour, but I don't know Sour.
This. Yeah, there was a kid I knew in high school that said he knew Sour, and that was like, cool.
Yeah. I know people that know Sour, but I don't know Sour.
That culture, that's dope.
But like the first writer here really was this dude named Sundance. That's what I found out the culture there. The first writer here was like writing his name everywhere was a dude named Sundance, and he was from, I'm trying to remember, like somebody gave me the knowledge on him. He was from one of the housing areas in Columbia. I can't remember which one, but they was like, cause I saw Sundance one time. I saw the name and I was like, yo, somebody wrote that's a long name to write.
Right?
Yeah, for real. Cause writers don't choose long names like that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Using names not that long. So that caught me off guard to see a long name like that. And then eventually I ran into some people that was like, oh, he was writing Sundance like in the 80s. I was like, oh, word. So he's like the first one here doing that. You know what I'm saying? So word up. Like, it's some culture here. It's some culture.
Yeah, that's dope.
Some of it here that kind of goes back. But just Sour has tapped in before on the guest books and just said, what up? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I mean, not to put him above anybody else or them above anybody else, but just like, that was just one that stood out from growing up. I remember there used to be like this broke down motel in the middle of downtown that nobody was there anymore, but it had just turned into this giant tagger space until they blew it up. But it was so cool.
Yeah, like, if you really follow the culture, Sour actually went to war with some younger heads. Like a few years back, I saw that because Sour was going over everybody over that stuff. But they put something on the wall against maybe his crew and him, and then Sour just went on campaign. And took it to him.
Pie wasn't that one of the crews?
Who?
It was Pie. There was a pie symbol, and it was like positive picture. Yeah, they was all over.
Maybe. I just know I saw like a couple names up, and the next thing I knew, Sour wrote Big Sour over it, like Sour. I was there's a war going on. Like, this is interesting. You know what I mean? I love seeing that. I knew some people. We bring up the war part. I knew some people that was connected to some Detroit writers, and I love the city of Detroit. I got people in Detroit. COVID, I can't visit like I was visiting before COVID, but to be there visiting, and it was funny because it was like it's a big crew, like one of the world's largest crews ever. It's like AWR out of LA. That's who some of the big writers are part of that crew, and they were in Detroit writing the AWR stuff. And, for those who don't know, like, graffiti is regional and very local, and people are very protective of their walls, you know what I'm saying, of their city. So if you coming in like somebody from the outside doing that, and it looks like you getting up everywhere, it's going to be problems. And so this one dude, like, he took it upon himself. He was like, everywhere I see AWR, I'm going over them big, like, you know what I'm saying? And he pretty much took on that Detroit versus the world mentality there. Like, but I thought it like to me, that's the culture. It's like, all right, I'm going to show you I can do it better. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Like it's always room for growth. That's what the culture, to me, that's what it symbolizes too. There's always room to grow and get better. Like somebody's going to push you. If you don't push yourself, the competition out there is going to push you. And really, you know, at the end of the day, though, I say to myself, I don't know about other creative people, I'm like, the competition is yourself. You know what I'm
True.
saying? Really, at the end of the day, you're competing with yourself. Like, am I the best at being myself today than I was yesterday? Okay, let me compete with that and see if I can be better. You know, overall, you know, when you start to really grow in yourself, you can kind of see it for what it is. You know what I'm saying?
You can
But
see some technique that somebody else uses. Say, "Oh, I see that they've got skill with that," but really, what you channeling is your own, and it's just
yeah, you know, and you know, in the beginning, Tony Cacolano was mentioned. I have to bring him up, right? I can't come off of this without bringing him up and saying that, like, I apprenticed with him, and so I got a chance to sit with him for years and have him tear my work apart, which was a good thing. And you know, it was a blessing. So I don't feel like I lucked up and hooked up with him. I was meant to hook up with him. You know what I'm saying? So I got all the lineage that came through him. I got that. You know what I'm saying? And it just so happened that like he was influencing. You know, his teacher was the founder of the New York School. And for those who don't know what the New York School is, it's a school of artists that, you know, were produced in like the late 40s, mid 50s.
Wow.
Those artists who were like Jackson Pollock, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? These big international artists, you know what I mean? Like Jackson Pollock was part of that movement. Like, I'm trying to think of some of the artists off the top of my head. Jackson Pollock is the one that stands out of the most, but it was several of them, like Klein, for instance. Franz Klein, who did the big march. And if you ever seen Franz Klein stuff, you can see that you look at it, you like, that looks like graffiti writing. You know what I'm saying? But he was doing it back in the days before people were doing it on walls and trains or whatever. So you're seeing, you know, so I'm seeing this stuff, but I got those influences, you know, from him. I had to bring him up because he did, you know, he was like, if you understand this, you can make this yours. So I put down that stuff that I would do in the street to do this fine academic stuff, to want to find a way, you know, to combine it. You know, when you look at graffiti, though, graffiti itself, like graffiti and street art aren't the same thing.
Mm-mm.
And there are people who are in both realms, but graffiti is a whole nother world. It ain't street art. Like, you know, graffiti is about competition. It is about where you get up at. Yeah. And it ain't about prettiness. It ain't about impacting the public. It's about getting your name up in as many places as you can.
Yeah.
That's really what it's about. You know, because you think about the inception of it. I mean, the very, like, let's say, like, I'm trying to think, like the trains back in the 70s.
Go ahead,
like,
speak on
you know,
it. Yeah.
to go all city meant
All
you
city.
hit all
that was
lines.
a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you want to go all city, so you want to hit the lines, all the train lines. So when it went around the whole city, everybody saw your name. You know what I'm saying? So you got up in places where you could be all city. Like you went around all the boroughs and everybody knew who you was, because that was really important. You know what I'm saying? Making your mark was really important in that way. You know, what street art has been is like, you know, really for the public, which is a good thing too. Now, you know, the elements of it that can be bad because, you know, like anything else, they found a way to, and I say, well, I'm talking about the industry, and I say they found a way to, you know, take what creative people have done and monetize that for their own benefit. But overall, the impact of what those artists are making, you know, mostly is on a positive tip. It's just that, you know, those worlds are like two different worlds. And a lot of times, real hardcore graph writers don't get down with street artists. The real hardcore ones don't. I know some hardcore ones, man, and they just like, you know.
It's a different breed. It's a different breed.
It is. It is. Like, and I think I get the pass a little bit because of my levels of involvement everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sort of like, you know, the unofficial ambassador to be able to walk into spaces, I think, you know.
And how people say
you've done so legitimately, right?
Yeah,
like that's how you get there.
Uh-huh. Yeah. But I mean, like, even with that, some people could be like, man, you a sellout for doing that. You need to stay
I
over here on this
suppose
side. You know what I'm
it goes
saying?
around. Then I also am
Yeah.
like, you know,
Mhm.
like there's different aspects to it, because I'm not going to say that like, particularly if I'm out of town and I see a tag that I know, like there's something about that that's like, this person from my city was here standing at this gas pump.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
that's cool. That's there's a connection there, and I don't even know who the person is.
Yeah.
But street
tribal.
art
Yeah,
is
it
just
is
more
wild like
about
that.
yeah. Oh yeah, it's great. But street
Mhm.
art to me is more about like taking what you would normally be trying to do in a bigger art venue and just
Yeah.
like saying, screw the gallery, put it right here. Everybody gets it. They can tear it down tomorrow. You know, because a lot of this is offerings to the universe. It's
Mhm.
you know,
It is.
pouring stuff out of yourself and trying to put it out there. And I don't know. I love both. I guess.
Yeah. I love them both too. And I got friends in both worlds. You know what I'm saying? So I understand like where they're coming from, and you know that I'm really be wanting to see more camaraderie in those spaces abroad. But you know that they do different animals. Sometimes those animals just can't be in the same space at the same time.
Very true.
You know. So yeah, but I'll say this: like from doing all that and realizing, going back to the origins of hip hop, I started to realize that, you know, through all those practices that I had always been practicing Afrofuturism. So at the core of all this, I'm an Afrofuturist. You know what I'm saying? So in that term, I didn't really start taking on that term until I remember, I think I might have been sitting down. I got a call from them or whatever, but Dogon Krieger was like, "You're making Afrofuturism." And when I was like, oh, that term.
There's a word
What's
for
that
it?
term? Yeah, what's that term? Because I've been doing it. Okay. So I go look the term up. I'm like, oh, okay. And, you know, once I got that term, I started really studying, you know, going backwards and studying to go forward, and then, you know, realizing that, oh, this is in everything that I've been doing. It really
Isn't
has
that
been.
fun?
You know what I
Oh,
mean?
God, that sounds great.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? To be able to, you know, I use that term. I don't believe in boxes. Artists say it all the time, but I use that term so people can identify
Right.
with what they're experiencing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It helps.
Yeah. It helps. It helps. And it's a broad term.
Yeah.
Because what I do doesn't look like what the next Afrofuturist is doing. You know what I'm saying? Because my practice is stemming in hip hop. Like, you know, hip hop is the practice in which my Afrofuturism, you know, really is seated from. So, you know, you're going to see those aspects in what I do all the time, because that's the foundation, regardless of who mentored me and all these other things. You know, and I'll go back to say Tony Cacolano was really, this dude was tapped in, man. He was working for Walter Chrysler. And at the time he told me that, I was like, Walter Chrysler, that name sounds familiar, sort of like, I don't know him. But then he was like, Chrysler, the Chrysler company.
That's crazy.
Like Chrysler. I was like, the car company?
It's
He's
crazy.
like,
He just said his name.
Yeah, I was like, Walter Chrysler, Walter Chrysler Jr. Yeah, he's like, I worked for Walter Chrysler Jr. I was like, okay, who's that? You know what I'm saying? And I looked him up. I was like, whoa, like you were working for that dude? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it blew me away. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, for him to, you know, be tapped into the New York school in that way, I got those experiences. And the dude was accomplished. Like you can't look at any show from the 90s and not see his artwork on a wall of sitcoms.
Dang.
So his work was in a whole bunch of TV shows. You know what I mean? I was like, wow, this is crazy. But he was one of the first ones, like, you know, to talk about visual artists not really getting their just dues in a sense. Like, so, like we're talking about on one of our panels, we were talking about NFTs,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And, you know, the ability to be able to, like, visual artists now, you know, to be able to have more authority over their visual, right? And how they make income from those visuals. Well, you know, Tony was talking about at the time, how, you know, they have my work on there, but, you know, every time it shows, I don't get paid for that.
True.
They didn't directly contact me to purchase this work. So I didn't make any income from that. though you're seeing my work everywhere, I'm not making income from that. Like, he made a lot of his income from actually selling the work.
That is,
you know what I mean? And he did pretty well. I mean, at the height of everything, he was like making like $100,000 a year more selling his art. You know? Yeah,
that was
you know
good.
what I
That
mean?
was real money. That was real money
Yeah,
too.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and that's all by him, just making, by his own hand, making the work. And and so like that influenced me. But I also say like even now, like I keep mentors. So I have another mentor, but I haven't seen him since this COVID situation, Juan Logan. And Juan Logan is just as accomplished, but he's Southern. You know what I mean? In that sense, like Tony was wild. Tony, Italian dude, and he would always kind of like, he's like, I learned English when I was like 8 years old. He was like, he said, I'm Italian. I'm not really an American in that way. And he was like, help me understand something. He was like, help me understand something, man. Why won't y'all just say y'all African? Because that's what y'all are, man. You know what I'm saying? This whole adding this American thing to it is kind of weird. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think he was coming from his own perspective, but that's just to give you an idea of the kind of person that I was dealing with and that, influenced the way I saw the world artistically. Like, so Juan Logan, totally different than Tony. And, and Juan is a very thorough artist, like way thorough. So like I thought through, studying with somebody, being apprenticed with somebody who had graduated from Yale with a master's and actually had taught on a collegiate level for years, that I pretty much got a thing. But then when I started like dealing with Juan, I realized, dang, man, there's so many more levels to this. Like the levels never end. You know what I'm saying? And to me, those levels have everything to do with hip hop too. Like, it's a never ending thing there. And I always find a way to bring that back to the culture that continues to like, to raise me in some way. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Man, we appreciate it. We're running up on a hard deadline here.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
But we do want to give you a chance to let people know how they can, be in contact with you, what projects you got working on. I know if anybody wants to see your work, you got a website, and there's a big piece right on Millwood. That's amazing.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. So the piece on Millwood done by myself, Carl Zerflor, and the homie Brandon Donahue, along with my daughter, who helped to assist us in the process, Ariel Flowers, that goes by Fleecy. So yeah, and so you can catch me on social media. I don't do too much social media in the sense that I'm not on all social media platforms, but catch me on Facebook as Cedric Umoja. You can catch me on Instagram as Umojaism. I'll say projects wise, right now, because of my love of the culture, I got in sharing of music, because I have always been sharing music. I kind of took the place of not a DJ, but somebody who would just break music. If I caught new music and I know people might be loving new music, I would share it on my platforms here and there. So I got I got contacted by a DJ, and a DJ who I know, who used to own a gallery at the time. And I showed it at the gallery. He contacted me, was like, I want you to be part of this, this venture I'm getting ready to step into, which is like, I'm doing internet radio, which is free to the public. So everybody is free to the public, internet radio. I have a show called Something for the Culture that comes on 6 days a week from 8 to 9 Eastern Standard Time. And so that music is curated all by me. And so that's the current project in a sense, because that's something that's completed. And let's talk about what I'm working on. I'm working on a project for the city of Charleston. I'm doing a big public art project for them. And it would be in line with some projects they have opening, leading to the museum that they put millions into. So the museum should be opening this year.
That is right.
I would say around the fall.
Yeah.
So my project, or the public art project I'm doing, is part of a series of events leading up to that opening of that museum.
Oh, that's dope. You got to keep us up to date on that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you. And so like I'll be beginning that sometime this month, or maybe sometime next month. I'll be involved in that project right there. And then I got a couple other public art projects or mural commissions around the town to do. And then, just some group shows out of state is where I'm at right now. And then if people are interested in my work, or, trying to see what I've done, you can go to my website, CedricUmoja.com. I'm going to be putting some new work up there and just changing up some parts of that as we go on. And just, if anybody listening, please keep in mind that, like I said previously, my work is visual dialogue. So I'm trying to have conversation. And the best way to have conversation is to speak in many different ways. The energy is still the same. Mm-hmm. So if you look at something, you see my writing, it still goes back to graffiti, right? Because I'm doing writing. So you see the graffiti and you see these characters or you see these figures. Understand those things are the same thing. I'm just speaking in ways. Some people understand figure better than they understand the writing. Some people understand sculpture, which I've done, better than they understand those two elements, being the writing or being the figure. So I'm trying to just tap in. And some people understand film. Like I'm a big film head. So some people understand film. I got a film. So you can kind of tap into those things and realize that I'm speaking in different ways, trying to get these messages out to people is what it is.
That's deep,
so
man.
I want to thank you too, because you did I'm on the board of an organization called Bullets and Band-Aids, and you did beautiful t-shirt. Yeah,
Word.
Yeah, I'm at Robert's house about twice a week.
Oh yeah, Rob, yeah, man. I love that brother, man. You know what I'm saying? Such a down-to-earth dude. Yeah, and he's been through a lot, and to be able to give this back to people, man, you know what I'm saying? I had to be a part of that, you know what I'm saying? So thank you.
We appreciate it, man.
For allowing me to be a part of that process.
Probably my favorite design of that series. And I did one, but yours was better.
Oh man, thank you, man. That's love, man. I really appreciate that. Anytime anybody says that, it humbles me. You know what I'm saying? Because like that, and that's part of the process too. Always knowing that, that there's opportunity for you to be humble, and accept graciously what people are saying too, accept that love as well. So I appreciate that, and all the other opportunities that I've been able to be a part of that's impacted, communities like that. But, that particular project, how could I not do it? I'm a product of military people.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. My father served in a situation where, he got exposed to some of those elements during war. So I had to do that. I didn't have a choice. I felt it'd be mandatory, so yeah, thank you guys. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we're going to go ahead and close out for today. We want to thank our guest, Cedric Umoja, for joining us today on the Hilltop Glove podcast. I want to thank my co-host for joining us as well, and to my ally, Mr. Mike Conway. Mike, we appreciate us all for being here. This is DJ and What. I want to sign off today. As I always tell folks, man, tell somebody next to you that you love them. Enjoy your weekend. Try to get something good out of it. Don't waste that time and have some good positive energy, man. And to everybody out here, peace.
That's it for today's episode of the Hilltop Glove podcast. Make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other platforms. Also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Hilltop Glove.